Hello, and welcome. If you're here, chances are you've already felt it. That quiet frustration when you make a really good plan. You explain it clearly. People even nod and say, yes, great idea. And then, nothing much changes. Or it starts strong for 2 weeks and then quietly fades away. Maybe you've led teams, run projects, tried to improve things at work, at home, in your community, and you've seen the same pattern repeat. Good intentions, nice presentation, slow death by daily reality. This book is for that exact moment. It's not about writing prettier plans. It's not about motivational speeches or fancy strategy slides. It's about the boring, stubborn, sometimes annoying things that actually make change last longer than a few enthusiastic weeks. We are going to talk about real life, not the perfect pilot project version, but the messy, tired on Monday, someone quit last week, budget got cut version. Chapter 1. Why good plans often stay on paper. Have you ever made a really solid plan? You sat down, thought everything through, wrote out the steps, maybe even made a nice list or a spreadsheet. It felt exciting. You could picture yourself succeeding. But then, days turned into weeks, and that plan just sat there. Nothing happened. The excitement faded, and life got busy again. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Most people are great at planning but struggle when it comes to actually doing the work. The gap between I know what I should do and I actually did it is huge for almost everyone. This book is about closing that gap. It's about turning those smart ideas and careful plans into real, lasting change. We are not talking about quick fixes or overnight miracles. We are talking about solutions that actually stick in the messy, unpredictable reality of everyday life. Let's start with a simple truth. Planning feels safe. When we plan, we are in control. We imagine the perfect path. We think about what could go right. We avoid the uncomfortable parts like doubt, tiredness, interruptions, or failure. Planning is comfortable because it stays in our heads. Action, on the other hand, is uncomfortable. It means facing reality. It means risking that things won't go exactly as planned. It means dealing with our own habits, moods, distractions, and the unexpected things that pop up. That's why so many plans stay on paper. They never make it out of the safe zone of thinking. But here's the good news. The discomfort of action is temporary, and the results are permanent. When you actually start doing the thing, the fear usually shrinks. Momentum builds. Small wins add up. Before you know it, what felt impossible becomes normal. Think about learning to drive. At first, every little thing felt overwhelming. Checking mirrors, signaling, staying in your lane, watching for other cars. Your brain was working overtime. But after a few weeks or months, driving became automatic. You could chat with a friend, listen to music, and still drive safely. The same thing happens with almost any new habit or project. The beginning is the hardest part. So why do so many of us get stuck at the beginning? One big reason is perfectionism. We want the plan to be perfect before we start. We think, I'll begin when I have everything figured out. But life doesn't wait for perfect conditions. The truth is, you'll never have everything figured out. The best plans are good enough plans that get adjusted along the way. Another reason is overwhelm. Big goals can feel like mountains. When the goal is get in shape or start a business or write a book, it's easy to freeze because it seems too big. Our brain says, this is too much. Let's do something easier instead, like scroll on the phone. Fear of failure plays a role too. Deep down, many of us worry that if we try and it doesn't work, we'll feel worse than if we never tried. So we protect ourselves by staying in the planning stage forever. Planning becomes a way to feel productive without risking disappointment. And then there's the environment. Our daily surroundings are full of distractions, notifications, easy snacks, comfortable couches, people who want our attention. It's not that we lack willpower. It's that the world around us is designed to pull us away from hard things. The goal here isn't to shame you for getting stuck. It's to understand why it happens and then build simple, realistic ways to move forward anyway. We are going to look at real-life strategies that normal people use to make change last. Not superhumans with endless discipline, but regular folks like you and me. In the chapters ahead, we'll talk about how to make starting easier, how to keep going when motivation disappears, how to handle setbacks without giving up, and how to build systems so the right things happen almost automatically. But before we dive into the how, let's get really clear on one thing. Action is the only thing that creates results. No matter how brilliant the idea, no matter how detailed the plan, nothing changes until someone does something. Think about the people you admire. The ones who built businesses, wrote books, got fit, learned new skills, fixed their finances. They all have one thing in common. They started. They kept going. They adjusted when things went wrong. They didn't wait for the perfect moment. You can do the same. This book is your companion for that journey. We'll keep things practical and straightforward. No complicated theories. Just ideas you can try tomorrow morning. Let's begin with a small promise to yourself. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to start. Even a tiny step counts. 1 push-up. 1 sentence written. 1 minute of meditation. 1 page read. 1 email sent. Tiny actions create proof that change is possible. When you see proof, belief grows. When belief grows, action becomes easier. It's a cycle that builds on itself. Right now, think of one plan you've been carrying around in your head. Maybe it's exercising more, eating better, learning a skill, organizing your home, improving a relationship, or starting a side project. Pick one. Don't worry if it feels big. We'll break it down later. Just hold that idea gently in your mind. Now imagine this. 6 months from today, you look back and realize you actually did it. Not perfectly, maybe not exactly as planned, but you made real progress. You stuck with it long enough for it to become part of your life. How would that feel? That feeling is possible. Not because you're special or gifted, but because you're willing to take small, consistent steps instead of waiting for a big burst of motivation. This first chapter is about recognizing that the real work isn't in making the plan, it's in starting and continuing. The rest of the book will give you tools to make that easier. Chapter 2. Starting Small. Why Tiny Steps Beat Big Leaps Every Time. Let's talk about the moment most plans die. It's not usually after a big failure. It's right at the beginning, when the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels like a canyon. You look at the goal, run a 5K, write a whole book, meditate every day for 30 minutes, completely reorganize the house, and your brain quietly whispers, maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. The secret weapon that gets people past that whisper is tiny steps. Not heroic leaps. Not massive overhauls. Just ridiculously small actions that are almost impossible to fail at. Why does small work so well? Because your brain is wired to resist big changes. Big changes feel threatening. They trigger the part of you that wants safety, comfort, and predictability. A tiny step? It slips under the radar. It doesn't set off alarms. Your brain says, okay, fine, that's nothing, and lets you do it. Once you do that tiny thing, something magic happens. You get evidence. Real proof that you're capable. That proof builds a little bridge of confidence. The next tiny step feels a bit easier. Then the one after that. Slowly, the bridge gets longer, and before you know it, you've crossed the canyon without ever feeling like you were doing anything huge. Let me share a few everyday examples. Take exercise. Most people who want to get fit think, I need to go to the gym 5 days a week for an hour. They buy new shoes, download an app, plan the perfect schedule. Then the first week is brutal. Sore muscles, early alarms, crowded gym, and by day 4 they're back on the couch wondering why they're so weak-willed. Now compare that to this. Put on workout clothes and do 1 push-up. That's it. 1 single push-up. If you feel like doing more, great. If not, you still win. You kept the promise to yourself. Most people who start with 1 push-up end up doing 5, or 10, or a whole set. Why? Because starting is the hardest part. Once you're moving, momentum takes over. Another one, writing. People dream of writing a novel but freeze because I need to write 2,000 words a day. That feels like climbing Everest. Instead, try this. Open the document and write one sentence. Just one. If it flows, keep going. If it doesn't, close it and feel good that you showed up. Writers who use this trick often end up with pages instead of blank screens. Even something practical like decluttering. The thought of I have to organize the entire kitchen today makes most people procrastinate for months. Change it to I will clear one drawer. One drawer takes 5 minutes. You finish, you feel lighter, and the next day another drawer doesn't seem so scary. The pattern is the same every time. Lower the bar so low that saying no feels ridiculous. When the action is tiny, resistance drops to almost zero. You build the identity of someone who follows through. That identity matters more than any single big win. There's solid science behind this too. Behavioral researchers have found that the size of the first action predicts whether a habit will stick. Small actions create success spirals. Each small win releases a bit of dopamine, the feel-good chemical, and makes your brain want to repeat the behavior. Big leaps often lead to burnout or disappointment, which makes your brain associate the goal with pain instead of pleasure. Small steps also give you room to adjust. Life isn't predictable. If you commit to an hour at the gym every day, one sick kid, one late night at work, or one rainy morning can derail everything. But if your minimum is walk around the block once, you can still do it even on the worst day. Consistency beats intensity almost every time. Here's how to make tiny steps work for you in real life. First, make the step stupidly small. If your goal is to read more, don't start with 20 pages. Start with 1 page, or even 1 paragraph. If it's flossing, start with 1 tooth. Yes, 1 tooth. Sounds silly, but it works because the brain stops fighting. Second, attach it to something you already do. This is called habit stacking. After I brush my teeth, I will floss 1 tooth. After I pour my morning coffee, I will write 1 sentence. After I sit on the couch at night, I will do 1 stretch. Linking the new tiny action to an existing routine makes it almost automatic. Third, track it simply. A check mark on a calendar, a note in your phone, a jar with marbles, anything that lets you see the chain growing. Don't overcomplicate it. The point is to see progress, not to create extra work. Fourth, celebrate quietly. You don't need fireworks. Just say to yourself, nice. I did what I said I would. That quiet pat on the back reinforces the behavior more than you think. One person I know wanted to save money, but kept spending impulsively. Her tiny step was this. Every time she wanted to buy something non-essential, she waited 2 minutes before deciding. Just 2 minutes. In those 2 minutes she asked, do I really need this? Most of the time the urge passed. Over months, those 2-minute pauses saved her thousands. She never felt deprived because the change was so gradual. That's the beauty of tiny steps. They compound. A 1% improvement every day doesn't feel like much in the moment, but over a year it's 37 times better than when you started. Big leaps promise fast results, but usually deliver frustration. Tiny steps promise slow progress, but usually deliver lasting change. So pick one area of your life right now. The same one you thought about in the last chapter, or a new one. Ask yourself, what is the smallest possible version of this action that I can do today and still feel like I moved forward? Write it down. Make it embarrassingly small if you have to. Then do it. Not tomorrow, today. When you finish that tiny action, notice how you feel. Probably a mix of that was easy, and maybe I can do a little more. That feeling is the seed of real change. Chapter 3. When motivation disappears. Building habits that don't rely on feeling like it. Motivation is like the weather. Some days it's sunny and perfect. You wake up ready to conquer everything on your list. Other days it's gray, rainy, and miserable. You stare at your plan and think, I just don't feel like it today. And honestly, that's normal. The problem comes when we treat motivation like the fuel we need to keep going. If we wait for it to show up every time, most of our good intentions will stay parked forever. The people who actually make lasting change don't rely on feeling motivated. They build systems and habits that work even when they feel flat, tired, distracted, or just plain meh. The goal isn't to stay excited all the time. The goal is to make the right action the default, so you do it whether you feel like it or not. Think about brushing your teeth. Do you wake up every morning pumped to brush your teeth? Probably not. You do it because it's just what you do. It's automatic. No big emotional debate. That's the level we want for the things that matter to us: exercise, writing, studying, eating better, whatever it is. We want it to feel as normal and non-negotiable as brushing your teeth. How do we get there? By shifting from motivation to identity and systems. First, identity. Ask yourself, who do I want to become? Not what do I want to achieve, but who is the kind of person who does this? If your goal is to read more, don't just say, I want to read 30 books this year. Say, I'm a reader. When you see yourself as a reader, skipping a day feels like acting out of character. It's uncomfortable in a good way. That discomfort nudges you back on track faster than any pep talk ever could. Small daily actions reinforce that identity. Every time you read one page, you're voting for the reader version of yourself. Every time you do one push-up, you're voting for the active version. Votes add up. After enough votes, the identity feels true, and the behavior follows naturally. Next, systems over goals. A goal is the destination. Lose 10 kilos, finish the project, save 50,000 rupees. A system is the repeatable process that gets you there. Systems are what you control every day. Goals are nice to have, but they can make you feel like a failure if progress is slow. Systems keep you in the game. Here are some practical ways to build systems that don't depend on motivation. 1. Use the 2-minute rule. Take any habit and shrink it until the first part takes 2 minutes or less. Want to run? System starts with put on running shoes. Want to write? Open the document. Want to meditate? Sit on the cushion for 2 minutes. Once you're there, in shoes, document open, sitting down, the hardest part is done. Most days you'll keep going. On the days you don't, you still win because you followed through on the tiny promise. 2. Never miss twice. Life happens. You'll skip a day. That's okay. The rule is, don't let one miss turn into 2. One skipped workout is fine. 2 in a row starts a streak of not doing it. And streaks are powerful in both directions. Break the bad streak early. Get back on track the very next day, even if it's just the tiny version. 3. Make it obvious. Put visual reminders where you can't miss them. Leave your running shoes by the door. Put your journal on your pillow. Set your phone to open your reading app first thing. The more obvious the cue, the less you have to rely on remembering or feeling inspired. 4. Pair it with something enjoyable. Temptation bundling. Only listen to your favorite podcast while you walk. Only watch that fun show while you're on the treadmill. Only drink your favorite tea while you're writing. Link the habit you need with something you already want. Your brain starts looking forward to the combo instead of dreading the habit. 5. Design for your worst day. Ask, what's the smallest version I can do even when I'm exhausted? It's raining, and I hate everything. That becomes your non-negotiable minimum. Everything above that is bonus. On good days you'll do more. On bad days you'll still protect the streak. Consistency compounds. Perfection doesn't. Real example. A woman wanted to drink more water. Motivation came and went. Some days she drank liters. Others barely a sip. She switched to a system. 1 full glass first thing when she woke up. Glass by the bed the night before. No thinking required. After a few weeks it became automatic. Then she added another glass with lunch. Slowly the habit grew without ever depending on feeling like it. Another one. A guy wanted to stop doom scrolling before bed. Motivation to be better wasn't enough. He created a system. Phone goes in another room at 9 p.m., replaced by a book. No negotiation. After a month, the new routine felt normal. Motivation wasn't part of the equation anymore. The beautiful thing about systems is they protect you from yourself. When motivation vanishes, and it will, the system carries you. You don't have to feel strong. You just have to follow the simple rules you set when you were clear-headed. Start small here too. Pick one habit you've been struggling to keep up. Write down the tiniest version of it. Write down the cue, when and where. Decide your never miss twice rule. Make it obvious somehow. Then do it today, even if you don't feel like it. Notice what happens. You might feel a quiet pride, not fireworks, just a steady I did the thing. That feeling is more reliable than any burst of excitement. Collect enough of those quiet wins, and motivation becomes optional. Chapter 4. Shaping your space. How your environment can help, or hurt, your progress. Your surroundings talk to you all day long, whether you notice it or not. They whisper suggestions, set up temptations, or quietly support the person you want to become. Most of the time we blame ourselves when things don't stick. I just don't have enough willpower. But often the real issue is that our environment is working against us. Change the space, and a lot of the heavy lifting gets done for you. Think about it like this. If your goal is to eat healthier but the kitchen counter is covered with chips, biscuits, and sweets, you're fighting a daily battle every time you walk in. Your brain sees those easy options first. Willpower has to kick in hard just to say no. Now imagine the same kitchen but the unhealthy stuff is tucked away in a high cabinet, and a big bowl of fruit sits right in the middle of the counter. The healthy choice becomes the obvious one. You still have to choose, but the environment is helping instead of fighting you. This isn't about being perfect or living in a magazine-worthy home. It's about making small, smart tweaks so the right actions feel natural and the wrong ones feel a little harder. Here are the main ways your environment shapes your progress. First, make good choices obvious. Put things you want to do in plain sight. If you want to read more, leave a book on your nightstand or on the couch where you usually sit. If you want to exercise at home, roll out your yoga mat in the living room corner every morning so it's the first thing you see. If you want to drink more water, keep a filled bottle or glass on your desk. The less you have to hunt for the tool or reminder, the more likely you are to use it. Second, make bad choices invisible or inconvenient. Out of sight really can be out of mind. If snacking is derailing you, don't keep the tempting stuff at eye level. Move it to the back of a shelf, to a different room, or, if you live alone, even out of the house. Studies show people eat far less junk when it's not visible. One simple trick: if you buy treats, put them in an opaque container on a high shelf. The extra effort often makes you think twice. Third, reduce friction for the things you want. Friction is anything that makes starting harder. Want to meditate? Don't bury your cushion in the closet. Keep it in the open, maybe with a small blanket folded on top. Want to write? Keep your laptop charged and ready on your desk instead of having to plug it in and wait. Want to go for a walk? Leave your shoes and jacket by the door the night before. Every second of extra effort you remove stacks the odds in your favor. Fourth, use cues that trigger the right behavior. Your environment is full of triggers already. Use them on purpose. The kettle boiling can be your cue to do 5 minutes of stretching while you wait for tea. Your phone alarm in the evening can remind you to put the phone in another room. The moment you sit at your desk can be the signal to open your notebook instead of your browser. Link the place and the action so it happens almost without thinking. Fifth, create zones for different activities. If possible, separate spaces help your brain switch modes. Work at a dedicated desk, not on your bed. Exercise in one corner of the room. Relax or read in another spot. When spaces have clear purposes, it's easier to get into the right mindset. Your bed becomes for sleep and rest, not for scrolling or working. That separation protects your energy and focus. A real-life example. A student was struggling to study consistently. His desk was cluttered with snacks, old papers, gaming controllers, and his phone always nearby. He felt distracted the second he sat down. He made 3 changes, cleared everything except study materials, moved the phone to another room during study blocks, and placed a small lamp and a single motivational note on the desk. Within a week, sitting at the desk started feeling like study time automatically. The environment did most of the work. Another one, someone wanted to stop late-night eating. The kitchen light was always on, the fridge was right in the path to the bathroom, and snacks were in clear containers. They switched it up, turned off the main kitchen light after dinner, used a small night light if needed, put snacks in solid boxes in a cabinet, and kept only water and veggies visible. Those small shifts cut mindless eating almost completely. You don't need a big renovation. Start with one area that matters most to your current goal. Ask yourself, what in this space makes the good habit harder? What makes the bad habit easier? What one thing can I move, hide, add, or remove today to make the right choice 10% more likely? Pick the easiest change first. Maybe it's moving your running shoes to the front of the shoe rack. Maybe it's charging your tablet and leaving it open to your reading app. Maybe it's putting your journal and pen next to your coffee maker. Do that one thing today. Notice how it feels tomorrow when you encounter the new setup. It might feel a little strange at first, but that's okay. New patterns always do. After a few days or a week, it starts feeling normal. That's when the environment has become your quiet teammate instead of your opponent. Your space isn't neutral. It's either helping you or holding you back. When you shape it with intention, you give yourself a huge advantage. You're no longer relying only on motivation or discipline. You're letting your surroundings do some of the heavy lifting. Chapter 5. Dealing with the dip. What to do when results feel slow and you want to quit. You've started small. You've built a little system. Your space is helping instead of fighting you. Things feel good for the first couple of weeks. You're showing up, checking the boxes, feeling that quiet pride. Then something shifts. The newness wears off. The scale hasn't moved much. The words aren't flowing faster. The savings account looks almost the same. You look around and think, is this even working? Maybe I should just stop. Welcome to the dip. Every meaningful change has one. It's that long, flat middle stretch where progress feels invisible. Motivation has long since left the building, and quitting starts to look like the smart choice. The dip isn't a sign you're failing, it's a sign you're normal. Almost everyone who sticks with something worthwhile goes through it. The people who come out the other side aren't special. They just know what the dip looks like and have a few simple ways to keep walking through it. The first thing to understand is why the dip happens. Early on, results come fast because you're going from zero to something. The first 5 kilograms lost, the first 10 pages written, the first week without junk food. They feel big because the starting point was zero. But real, lasting change is mostly about small, steady improvements. Those improvements are tiny day to day. They don't show up dramatically on the scale, in the mirror, or in your bank balance right away. Your brain, which loves quick rewards, gets bored and starts whispering that nothing is happening. That whisper turns into doubt. Doubt turns into maybe this isn't for me. And if you listen too long, you quit right before the compound effect starts to kick in. The truth is, most people quit in the dip. The ones who keep going get the reward, the visible progress, the new normal, the pride that lasts. So how do you survive the dip without white-knuckling through misery? First, expect it. Knowing the dip is coming takes away half its power. When the flat period arrives, you won't be shocked. You'll think, oh, right, this is the part everyone talks about. Expectation turns frustration into something more like patience. You stop fighting reality and start working with it. Second, zoom out. Keep a simple record, not a fancy journal. Just a note on your phone or a calendar with check marks. Look back every couple of weeks, not every day. You'll often see patterns you missed in the moment. You're sleeping better, your energy is steadier, you're saying no to impulse buys more often. Daily progress is hard to see. Monthly progress usually isn't. When doubt creeps in, look at the bigger picture. Remind yourself, slow is not the same as stopped. Third, focus on the process, not the prize. In the dip, the outcome feels far away and uncertain. The one thing you can control is showing up for your tiny system today. Ask, did I do my minimum? If yes, you won. Celebrate that win the same way you did in the beginning. The process is what compounds. The prize shows up later. Fourth, lower the bar even more during tough stretches. If your normal minimum is 10 minutes of exercise and you're dragging, drop it to 2 minutes. If writing one page feels heavy, write one sentence. The point isn't to maintain peak performance, it's to avoid a total break in the chain. A 2-minute workout still counts as a day you showed up. It keeps the identity alive. I'm someone who moves my body every day. Chains are powerful. Don't let pride or shoulds break them. Fifth, find proof outside the main metric. If the scale isn't moving, notice your clothes fitting differently, or your stamina on stairs, or how you recover faster. If your savings aren't growing fast, notice you're no longer panicking at the end of the month. If your writing isn't brilliant yet, notice you're finishing sessions instead of staring at blank pages. Collect these side wins. They're real progress, even if they don't match your original number. Sixth, get social proof when you can. Tell one trusted person what you're doing. Not for accountability lectures, but for occasional encouragement. Hearing, "I've noticed you've been more consistent lately. You seem calmer these days," can pull you out of the fog. Sometimes an outside voice reminds you that change is happening even when you can't feel it. Seventh, remember the cost of quitting. In the dip, quitting feels like relief. But fast forward 6 months, you'll be right back where you started. Maybe even more frustrated because you know what's possible. Ask, if I quit now, where will I be in 3 months? In a year? Then ask the opposite. If I keep going, even slowly, where could I be? The dip is temporary. The regret of quitting can last a long time. A quick example. Someone started walking every morning to feel better and lose some weight. First month. Excited. Down a couple of kilos. Then the scale froze. Mornings got colder. Work got busier. The dip hit hard. She almost stopped. Instead, she made a deal with herself. Just put on the shoes and walk to the end of the street. Some days that turned into the full route. Some days it didn't. But she never missed putting on the shoes. 3 months later the scale started moving again. But more importantly, walking had become part of who she was. The dip passed, and she was glad she stayed. You're going to hit your own dip. Maybe you're in it right now. That's okay. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing something real. When it arrives, breathe. Expect it. Zoom out. Protect the chain with your tiniest minimum. Collect side proof. Keep showing up. The dip always ends. The people who cross it don't have more talent or willpower. They just refuse to let a slow season convince them the whole thing is pointless. You're already further than most because you've kept listening. Keep going, one small step at a time. The view from the other side is worth it. Chapter 6. Handling setbacks without losing everything. Turning slip UPS into comebacks. You've made it through the dip. You're showing up, even on the flat days. Your tiny habits are starting to feel a little less tiny. Then it happens. You miss a day. Or 2. Maybe you eat the entire packet of biscuits after a stressful call. Maybe you skip the walk because of rain and end up binge-watching instead. Maybe you yell at someone you care about when you swore you'd stay calm. Whatever the slip-up looks like, the feeling is the same. Disappointment mixed with a voice that says, "See, you can't do this. Might as well give up now." That voice is loud, but it's not telling the truth. A setback is not the end of the story. It's just a plot twist. The difference between people who eventually succeed and people who stay stuck isn't that the successful ones never slip. It's that they don't let one slip become a full collapse. They turn slip-ups into comebacks instead of letting them become funerals for their progress. Here's the key mindset shift. A setback is data, not defeat. It shows you where the system has a weak spot. It tells you what needs a small repair. When you treat it like useful information instead of proof you're broken, the emotional sting loses a lot of its power. So what do you actually do when you slip? First, separate the action from your identity. You didn't fail as a person. You had a moment where the old habit won. Say it out loud if you need to. I skipped today. That's what happened. It doesn't mean I'm lazy or weak. It means I'm human and today was hard. This small reframe stops the spiral from I messed up to I'm a mess up. Second, get back on the horse the very next opportunity. The rule of never miss twice from earlier? This is where it shines brightest. One missed day is normal. 2 in a row starts building momentum in the wrong direction. Make your comeback immediate. If you skipped your walk yesterday, do the tiniest version today. Put on the shoes and step outside for 1 minute. If you overate, eat one normal meal today without guilt. The faster you restart, the less damage the slip causes to your chain and your self-trust. Third, shrink the comeback to match how you feel. After a big slip, you might feel ashamed or low energy. Don't try to make up for it with a heroic double session. That usually backfires and leads to burnout. Instead, go even smaller than your normal minimum. 1 push-up instead of 10. 1 sentence instead of a page. 1 deep breath instead of 10 minutes of meditation. The point is to prove to yourself that the door is still open. You can always walk back through it, no matter how far you wandered. Fourth, look for the lesson without overanalyzing. Ask 3 quick questions. What happened right before the slip? Trigger: stress, boredom, tiredness. What made it easy to give in? No plan for that moment. Easy access to the temptation. What can I tweak next time? Move the snacks. Have a backup tiny action. Text a friend when stressed. Keep the review short. 5 minutes maximum. Write 1 sentence if it helps. Then close the book. No endless rumination. Learn, adjust, move on. Fifth, forgive yourself fast. Guilt feels productive, but it's actually an energy thief. It keeps you stuck in the past instead of acting in the present. Try this. After a slip, place your hand on your heart. Yes, really. It sounds cheesy, but it works. And say quietly, I'm still learning. I'm still in this. I forgive myself for that moment. It might feel awkward at first, but it shortens the recovery time dramatically. You deserve kindness from yourself the same way you'd give it to a friend. Real example. A man was trying to cut back on late-night phone scrolling. He had a good 2-week streak. Then one night he couldn't sleep, picked up the phone just for a minute. And 3 hours later he was still doom scrolling. The next morning he felt terrible, like he'd thrown away all his progress. Instead of quitting, he did this. He put the phone in the kitchen drawer that same evening. Tweak. He kept his minimum as no phone in bedroom after 9 p.m. Back to basics. And he reminded himself, 1 bad night doesn't erase 2 good weeks. He restarted the next night. The streak restarted too. A month later, those occasional slips became rare, and the habit felt solid. Another quick one. Someone working on kinder self-talk slipped and snapped at their partner during an argument. They felt awful. But they didn't let it ruin everything. They apologized sincerely that evening, then the next day did their tiny version. 1 kind thought about themselves in the mirror. They rebuilt from there. The relationship didn't break, and neither did their progress. Setbacks will happen. Multiple times. That's not a flaw in you. It's part of being alive. The skill isn't avoiding them forever. The skill is shrinking their size and shortening their duration. 1 bad day becomes 1 bad hour. 1 missed week becomes 1 missed day. You learn to recover faster each time. Every comeback strengthens the muscle of resilience. Each time you choose to restart, you teach yourself, I can trust me to come back. That trust is gold. It's what turns shaky starts into steady lives. So the next time you slip, and you will, remember this chapter. Pause. Breathe. Separate the action from who you are. Restart tomorrow with something tiny. Look for the small lesson. Forgive fast. Then keep going. You're not starting over from zero. You're continuing with more wisdom than before. That's how real change happens, not in a straight line, but in a series of brave comebacks. Chapter 7. Tracking without obsessing. Simple ways to see progress and stay motivated. You've started. You've kept going through flat stretches and bounced back from slips. Now the quiet wins are adding up, but sometimes it still feels like you're moving in slow motion. That's when tracking becomes your quiet friend. Done right, it shows you the proof that change is happening even when your eyes or feelings tell you otherwise. Done wrong, it turns into a source of stress, numbers that judge you, or another thing to fail at. The goal isn't to become a data nerd or to measure every breath. The goal is gentle awareness, enough visibility to stay encouraged, not so much that you get trapped in perfectionism or comparison. Good tracking feels like looking at old photos and smiling at how far you've come. Bad tracking feels like staring at a scale that never moves and feeling worse. Here are simple, low-pressure ways to track that actually help you keep going instead of making you want to quit. First, use the don't break the chain method. This is one of the easiest and most powerful. Get a calendar, paper, digital, whatever. Every day you do your minimum action, no matter how tiny. Put a big checkmark, X, or sticker on that day. The only rule is to not break the chain. Seeing a long row of marks growing is surprisingly motivating. It turns abstract progress into something visual you can touch or scroll through. When doubt creeps in, you look at the chain and think, I've done this 19 days in a row. I'm not going to ruin it now. Jerry Seinfeld famously used this for writing jokes. Simple red X on a wall calendar. It works because it focuses on consistency, not quality or quantity. Second, track only one or two key things. Pick the smallest number of metrics that still tell the real story. If your goal is to move more, track days I moved my body instead of steps, calories, or minutes. If it's reading, track days I read at least one page. If it's saving money, track days I didn't spend on non-essentials or amount transferred to savings this week. Fewer numbers mean less noise. One clean signal keeps you focused and reduces overwhelm. Third, track forward more than backward. Most people check how they did yesterday or last week. That's useful, but it can feel heavy if things were rough. Try streak forecasting. At the end of the day, if you did the thing, write tomorrow's date on your tracker ahead of time. You're not just recording history, you're making a small promise to future you. It creates gentle forward momentum. Some people even mark the next 7 days in advance when they're feeling strong. Then protect those pre-marked days like treasures. Fourth, use non-scale victories as trackers. Numbers like weight, bank balance, or word count can stall even when real change is happening. Keep a short list of other proofs. Things like, clothes feel looser, I sleep through the night more often, I say no to impulse buys without stress, I finish tasks without procrastinating as much, my mood stays steadier, people comment that I seem calmer. Write them down when they happen, maybe in the Notes app or a tiny notebook. Review the list every couple of weeks. These wins are often the first to show up and the last to be noticed. They keep you going when the main metric is stubborn. Fifth, make reviewing light and infrequent. Don't check your tracker every hour or even every day if it starts feeling obsessive. Set a weekly ritual, Sunday evening, 5 minutes. Look at the chain, note any side wins, smile at the progress, then close it. If you want to go deeper once a month, that's fine too. The point is reflection, not inspection. Treat it like flipping through a photo album, not an audit. Sixth, add a tiny reward or acknowledgement. After a week of checks, say to yourself, well done, you showed up 7 times. After a month, maybe treat yourself to something small that matches the habit. A new book if you've been reading. A favorite coffee if you've been consistent with early mornings. The reward isn't for perfection, it's for persistence. It reinforces that showing up matters. A real example. Someone wanted to build a daily journaling habit. At first she wrote X words. Some days were 0, and the zeros hurt. She switched to open the journal and wrote at least 1 sentence. She used a wall calendar with green dots. Every day she put a dot, no matter how short the entry. After 2 months the chain was long enough that missing a day felt weirder than writing. She also kept a separate note called Small Changes I Notice. Things like felt clearer after writing today, or handled stress better this week. Those notes kept her motivated when the entries themselves felt average. Another one, a person tracking water intake, started with apps and charts that stressed her out. She simplified to a row of 8 glasses drawn on paper each week. Every time she drank a glass, she colored one in. No decimals, no ounces, just color the glass. It became a satisfying little game. She hit her goal more often because the visual was fun, not judgmental. Tracking should feel supportive, like a friend saying, "Hey, look how far you've come." If it ever starts feeling like a critic, simplify it. Drop a metric. Make the minimum smaller. Switch to checkmarks only. The tool exists to serve you, not the other way around. Right now, think of your current goal. Choose one dead simple way to track it starting today. Maybe a calendar chain. Maybe a note with 3 words a day. Did it skipped tiny version. Keep it in the same spot so it's easy to find. Do your action, mark it. Feel that small spark of I'm building something. Over time, those marks become evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief makes action easier. And that loop keeps carrying you forward, even on the quiet days. Chapter 8. Making it last. How to turn actions into a lifestyle you love. You've come a long way. The tiny steps turned into habits. You survived the dip, bounced back from slips, and started seeing real proof in your calendar chains and quiet changes. Now the big question becomes, how do you stop treating this as a project and start living it as part of who you are? How do you move from I'm trying to exercise to I'm someone who moves my body because it feels good? From I'm working on eating better to this is just how I eat now? That shift, from effort to identity, from temporary fix to natural lifestyle, is what makes change last for years instead of weeks. It's not about forcing yourself forever. It's about making the actions feel so aligned with your values, your rhythm, and your pleasures that they stop feeling like work. Here's how to gently guide your habits into becoming a lifestyle you actually enjoy. First, connect the action to something you already value deeply. Ask, why does this matter to me beyond the surface goal? If you're walking more, maybe it's not really about the steps. It's about having more energy to play with your kids, or feeling clear-headed for the work you care about, or simply enjoying the fresh air and quiet thoughts. Write down 1 or 2 heartfelt reasons. Read them when the habit feels mechanical. When the why is personal and emotional, the action stops being a chore and starts feeling like self-respect. Second, weave joy into the process itself. Habits that last are rarely the ones we grit our teeth through. Find ways to make them pleasant or even fun. If reading feels like homework, pair it with your favorite cozy blanket, a warm drink, and soft music. If cooking healthier meals bores you, experiment with 1 new spice or recipe a week and treat it like a small adventure. If stretching in the morning feels dull, put on a playlist that makes you smile. The goal is to create positive associations, so your brain starts linking the habit with good feelings instead of duty. Third, let the habit evolve with you. What worked in the beginning might need to change as life shifts. The 2-minute meditation that got you started might grow into 10 or 15 minutes because it now feels nourishing. The daily walk might turn into a mix of walks, dance sessions, or bike rides because variety keeps it fresh. Don't lock yourself into the exact same version forever. Allow gentle upgrades or side paths. Flexibility makes the lifestyle sustainable instead of rigid. Fourth, build in seasons of ease. Nobody runs at full intensity all year. Plan lighter periods, maybe a week every couple of months where you do only the absolute minimum. Or swap your usual routine for something softer like gentle yoga instead of runs. These breathers prevent burnout and remind you that the habit isn't punishment. When you return to your fuller version, it feels like coming home rather than starting over. Fifth, surround yourself with reminders of the person you're becoming. This goes beyond environment tweaks from earlier. Keep a small photo, quote, or object that represents your why. Maybe a picture of your family if the habit is about having more energy for them. A note that says, "I choose calm," if it's about stress management. These aren't motivational posters, they're quiet anchors that say, "This is who I am now." Over time, they shape your self-image more than any pep talk. Sixth, share it naturally when it feels right. You don't have to announce big goals, but when the habit becomes part of your life, let it show up in conversations. I've been enjoying these evening walks, they help me unwind. I started making my lunches on Sunday, it saves so much stress during the week. When people notice and comment, "You seem more relaxed lately," or "You look great," it reinforces the change without pressure. Sometimes those outside mirrors help you see how integrated it's become. A real example, someone who started with 1 page a day of journaling eventually made it a lifestyle. She connected it to her value of self-understanding. She wanted to know herself better so she could show up kinder in her relationships. She made it enjoyable by using colorful pens, sitting by a window with tea, and sometimes adding doodles. When life got busy, she dropped to 1 sentence for a week, no guilt. She kept a tiny card on her desk that said, "Know thyself." Years later, journaling isn't something she does, it's simply part of how she processes life. It feels as natural as brushing her teeth. Another one, a woman turned healthy eating from a diet into a lifestyle by focusing on pleasure. She learned to make simple, flavorful meals she genuinely loved, fresh salads with herbs from her windowsill, smoothies that tasted like dessert. She ate with people she cared about more often. The food became celebration instead of restriction. Now she doesn't try to eat healthy. She just prefers food that makes her feel good. To make your own shift, take a moment right now. Think of the habit you've been building. Ask, what deeper value or joy does this serve? How can I make today's version a tiny bit more enjoyable? What small evolution feels exciting instead of forced? Try one small tweak this week. Maybe add music, change the time of day, pair it with a friend, or tie it to a bigger why. Notice how it feels after a few days. When the action starts to feel like, "This is me," instead of, "This is something I'm doing," you've crossed into lifestyle territory. This is the sweetest part of the journey. The effort fades. The identity grows. What once took willpower now flows naturally. You wake up one day and realize you're not forcing change anymore, you're living it. Chapter 9. When life gets really hard, keeping your habits alive during big changes and crises. Life doesn't pause for your good habits. A new job starts that demands 12-hour days. A family member falls ill and suddenly your energy goes to hospital visits and worry. You move to a new city or a new country, and everything familiar disappears. Money gets tight. A relationship ends. Or maybe it's all at once. Pandemic, job loss, grief, uncertainty. In those seasons, the habits you worked so hard to build can feel like luxuries you can't afford. The voice says, "How can I possibly meditate when I'm barely sleeping?" Or exercise. "I can hardly get out of bed." Those moments test everything we've talked about so far. But here's the gentle truth. Your habits don't have to disappear completely during hard times. They can shrink, adapt, and wait. The goal isn't to keep performing at the same level. The goal is to keep the thread alive, even if it's the thinnest possible thread. Because when the storm passes, and it always does, that thread becomes the rope you climb back up with. So how do you protect your habits when life feels impossible? First, shrink to survival size. Whatever your normal minimum was, cut it in half, then in half again if needed. Meditation was 10 minutes? Make it one mindful breath, literally one slow inhale and exhale while sitting on the edge of the bed. Walking 30 minutes? Walk to the mailbox and back, or pace the hallway for 60 seconds. Journaling a page? One sentence, today was hard, and I'm still here. The point is to keep the identity whisper alive. I'm still someone who does this, even in a tiny way. One breath, one step, one sentence, they count. They protect the chain when everything else is chaos. Second, anchor to the basics of being alive. Tie the habit to something you're already doing no matter what. Brush teeth? After brushing, take 3 deep breaths. Drink water first thing? While drinking, say one kind thing to yourself. Get out of bed? Stand up and do one gentle stretch. These anchors use momentum you already have. In crisis, even basic self-care can feel like a win. Piggybacking your habit onto it makes it almost automatic. Third, drop the all-or-nothing thinking completely. Hard seasons are not the time for perfection or catching up. If you miss days, or weeks, that's not failure. It's survival. When things calm down, you don't have to restart from zero. You restart from experience. Your body and mind remember. The neural pathways don't vanish because you paused. You're simply picking up a familiar rhythm again. Be kind about the gaps. They're not proof you're weak, they're proof you were handling something big. Fourth, use habits as tiny lifelines instead of tasks. In really dark times, the smallest version can become a moment of control and comfort. That one breath reminds you you're still here and breathing. That one stretch eases a knot of tension. That one sentence lets you name the pain so it doesn't swallow you whole. Shift the frame. These aren't chores you have to do. They're small acts of kindness you give yourself when everything else feels out of control. Fifth, lean on grace periods. Give yourself permission to pause without guilt. Say out loud or write, for the next 2 weeks, or month, or however long feels realistic, my only job is to survive and care for the people who need me. My habits will wait. Then, when the acute crisis eases, gently test the waters. Do the tiniest version once and see how it feels. Most times, it feels like coming home. The habit was never gone. It was just resting. A real example. A woman lost her mother suddenly. Grief hit like a wave. She had been consistent with daily walks and gratitude journaling for over a year. For the first month, both stopped completely. She felt guilty at first, then gave herself permission. Right now, breathing is enough. After 6 weeks, she started again with one thing, sitting on her porch for 2 minutes and noticing one thing she could still feel grateful for, even if it was just the warmth of the sun. Some days that was all. Over months, the walks slowly returned, longer each time. The habit didn't break forever. It bent, waited, and came back stronger because she hadn't forced it during the worst. Another one. A man went through a painful divorce while starting a new demanding job. His morning routine, 10 minutes of exercise and planning the day, felt impossible. He shrank it to stand up, do 5 arm circles, and write one priority on a sticky note. That was it. Some mornings he didn't even do that. But on the days he did, it gave him a small sense of order amid chaos. When life settled a year later, he naturally expanded back to his fuller routine. The core habit had survived. If you're in one of those seasons right now, or when it comes, remember this: you're not abandoning your progress. You're preserving it in the gentlest way possible. One breath, one step, one kind word to yourself. That's enough. You've already proven you can build habits when life is steady. Now you're learning you can keep a spark alive when life is anything but. That's real strength. Here is a complete chapter 10 written in simple, clear, conversational language, perfect for an audiobook about making real change actually last. Chapter 10. Scaling up wisely. When and how to add more without breaking what works. You finally have something that works. People are using your solution. Results are actually appearing. Complaints have gone down. You feel proud, and maybe a little scared. Because the next question almost always comes, can we do this for more people, more teams, more branches, more customers? That moment is dangerous. Most good ideas die not because they were bad, but because they were scaled too fast, too carelessly, or at the wrong time. So today we talk about the smart way to grow, how to add more volume without destroying the magic that made it work in the first place. Let's break it into 3 big questions you should always ask before you scale. Is it really ready to scale? What actually made it work in the small version? How can we copy the important parts without copying the heavy parts? 1. Is it really ready to scale? Many people scale too early. They see early success and think, it works. But very often what they have is 1 enthusiastic team, 1 motivated leader, extra attention, and coaching special budget, the new thing, excitement factor, very forgiving early users. None of those things travel well. Quick checklist before you decide to scale. Has the same system worked in at least 2 to 3 different places, teams, conditions? Does it still work when the original champion is not there every day? Can average people, not superstars, get decent results with normal effort? Does it survive when money and attention become normal, not special? Have you already fixed the biggest complaints and weak points? If you answer not yet to 2 or more of these, pause. Protect the small success first. Make it more bulletproof. Then scale. 2. What actually made it work in the small version? This is the most important question, and the one people skip most often. Write down, very honestly, what really created the good results. Was it extra training hours? Daily 10-minute check-ins? 1 very dedicated coordinator? Special software nobody else has? People choosing to do it? Voluntary? Very small group size? Extra budget for materials? The fact that everyone knew this is a pilot? Most of the time, the magic lives in 2 to 4 invisible ingredients. If you remove or weaken those ingredients when you go big, the results disappear. Real example. A hospital reduced medicine errors a lot in 1 ward. They had a very strict 7-minute double-check routine plus 1 nurse, who was amazing at motivating others. When they tried to do it in 12 wards, they removed the 7-minute rule, too long, and the motivating nurse was only 1 person. Errors went back up. They had scaled the paperwork, but not the actual behavior that created safety. So before you grow, ask, what are we actually selling, spreading here? The forms or the behavior? 3. How to scale without breaking what works. Here are the safest patterns that experienced people use. Pattern A. The sandwich method. Keep the small successful version running perfectly. At the same time, slowly start 1 to 2 new small copies in similar conditions. Only when those new copies also become stable, add another 1 to 2. Slow stacking beats big bang. Pattern B. Reduce ingredients before you multiply. Before you roll out to 50 places, try to make the system work with 30% less training time, 50% less supervision, normal budget, not pilot budget, people who are not volunteers. If it still works after you remove some special sauce, it has a much better chance when you go big. Pattern C. Create a very clear minimum faithful version. Write down the 4 to 6 things that absolutely must stay the same. Everything else can be adjusted locally. Example. Must have. Daily 2-minute huddle. Photo of the finished job. No blame error reporting. Can change. Exact time of huddle. Who leads it? Paper versus digital. Colors of boards. When people know the non-negotiables, they feel free to adapt, but don't destroy the core. Pattern D. Grow the helpers first before you ask 100 people to change. First grow the number of people who can coach, explain, and fix problems. Scale coaches, then scale users. 1 last warning. The fastest way to ruin a beautiful small success is to announce, we are now making this the standard for the whole company next quarter. Much better to say, wherever this is already working well, we would love to help other teams learn from you when they are ready. Slow invitation beats fast enforcement. Bottom line. Scaling is not about multiplying everything. Scaling is about protecting the few things that actually create the result, while multiplying everything around them. Do it carefully. Do it in small, safe steps. Do it only after you know what you're really copying. Because a good solution that stays small is still much better than a great solution that got destroyed while trying to become big. And that's it. We've walked through the whole cycle together, from the first spark of an idea, through the messy middle where most things die, all the way to making something strong enough to keep living, even when you're not watching it every day. Here's the truth I hope stays with you. Change doesn't stick because the plan was brilliant. It doesn't stick because you explained it perfectly. It sticks because day after day, in small, almost invisible ways, people found it easier, safer, more satisfying, or more rewarding than the old way. You don't need to control everything. You don't need everyone to love it from day one. You just need to keep creating tiny conditions where the new behavior feels like the natural choice. So when you finish this audiobook today, don't try to change the whole world tomorrow. Pick one small piece, one habit, one meeting, one 5-minute routine, and make it obviously better for the people doing it. Protect it. Feed it attention for a few weeks. Make it hard to go back to the old way. And when it starts working, don't rush to multiply it everywhere. First, make it strong enough to survive ordinary days, ordinary people, and ordinary problems. Because one small thing that lasts is worth more than 10 big things that fade. You already know how to dream up solutions. Now you also know how to help them breathe, and keep breathing, in real life. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope the next time someone asks you, how do we actually make this stick? You feel a quiet confidence inside that says, I know what to try first. Take care of yourself, and take care of the little changes you're starting.